here. All right. Hello, hello. Sorry about the sound.
How are you doing today, Skye?
Hi, Danielle.
Good.
All right. So we've got a few other stragglers coming in here at the moment as usual, which is totally fine. So super excited to be here. Webinar, Take Charge of Your Investment, Self-Manage with a Self-Directed IRA. So my name is Skye Logan, of course. From those of you, many of you, I'm sure, know me. If you are new here, go ahead and there's a chat window there. Feel free to chime in. I'm always interested to know where you all are from. I have a very special guest speaker today from one of our preferred partners in the IRA area, and her Miss Danielle Gerbick.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to join today.
Yeah, like I said, super excited for you to be here. So Danielle's just kicks butt in the IRA area for sure. 3,000 plus IRAs being done, nearly 10 years of experience in the financial area. She is a super awesome person for us to work with. All my clients that she works with loves her. And like I said, I am excited that she's here today to answer some questions. I've got lots of questions on IRAs and what exactly is a self-directed IRA, et cetera. And so you're going to be able to help us out with that, right, Danielle?
Absolutely. And I'm looking at this and I'm realizing I need to update this because this will be year 14 since I started in the industry. And we've welcomed a little boy since then. So I am due for an update on that biography.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's time to update that. So, yeah. Okay, fantastic. All right. So let's just dive right into it. So what exactly is, before I do start. So again, there is a chat window there. I wanted to see lots of questions that you have for Danielle or myself. Just chime in there. We'll answer those either immediately or throughout the webinar. And it's definitely a time to get some questions answered. So what is a self-directed IRA, Danielle?
Yeah, so I'll say a self-directed IRA is really at its core, it's the same IRA that you would be able to establish through like a local bank or brokerage company. Because I'll say all the rules in terms of how we add, contributions and distributions are going to be the same, right? It's all regulated by the government. What makes a self-directed IRA unique, though, are going to be the investment options. So instead of being limited to just your stocks, your bonds, your mutual funds, we now have the ability to really look wider and broader into anything that the government allows for. So that can include things like property, private lending. If you think of Facebook before it was public, those private businesses, anything along those lines. The way I guess I kind of liken it to is, your brokerage IRA is kind of like your plain vanilla. And if you think of a self-directed IRA, if you know Ben and Jerry's, right, the kitchen sink, you can do anything, right? It's kind of the same thing.
Everyone loves Ben and Jerry's. So we are doing a huge amount of IRAs, SDIRAs, 401ks, people, because we outperform here with Equine Help for sure. It's very low risk, a very high return. We're closing up on the year at a netting over 11% on average on our portfolio. So I have a very large amount of IRAs coming in. So, but tell our listeners, Danielle, why is it such a hot item? Why would someone want to choose a self-directed IRA?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'll say the number one reason that I see folks seeking out a self-directed IRA, and really starting to research and complete their due diligence is because of the volatility. We saw a lot of that earlier this year when COVID hit. We could look back to 2008 as well, the housing crisis. But what tends to be consistent with the stock market is it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, right? And we all want to catch it on the upswing, but we don't have a crystal ball to kind of dictate when that's coming. And so that's why I see folks that are really seeking out the self-directed IRA so they can build in more of, I'll say, that consistent, predictable income, especially the closer they become to retirement and the more they are, or the closer they are to drawing on those funds, and using that as a source of income.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's fantastic. And I have, it breaks my heart when I hear people coming in or talking with me that I have a managed IRA and they've been a city worker or whatever for, 25, 30 plus years. And it's been managed the entire time. And they just didn't know. They just, one for one, Skye, I didn't know. I had no control over it. I don't know what the investments were coming from. And like you said, they're invested in, they were used in different stocks that went up, went down. And during crashes, you can lose, half of your retirement in one of these crashes, right?
Well,
Um,
I'll say that, and to your point, when you talk about some of the managed accounts, I mean, the fees is another big component there. I'll say on average, when you move your account to a stockbroker, or one of those managed accounts, I mean, it can be 7% in the first year. I mean, so on a $100,000 account, I mean, you've got to earn 7% just to get back to even, right, before you're even making a profit. So I'll say a lot of times for clients, it's a cost savings on the fees when they move to a self-directed, option. I'll say, I know you mentioned diversification. That's another one, right? Not to put all your eggs in one basket. Even your stockbroker will say that, diversification, right? So that's another big reason, that we see folks seek out the IRA.
yeah. Okay. Fantastic. All right. Let's move along here. So the benefits which you hit on the SDIRAs, diversification, and I want to hit on that a little bit more on like why would that be we've always heard this term, diversify. You have to do that. And so what is the power of using that SDIRA and alternative investments, or you controlling it? How does that work where they can control that a little bit more?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I'll say the self-directed account here, can hold not only your real estate, your notes, your private equity. I mean, all of those can be held within one account, but when we think of diversification and we think of why do we hear that, well, we go back to the stock market example, right? They don't know what the stock market is going to do. So of course they're telling you to diversify. When we look at the self-directed accounts as well, I know that clients like to have, I'll say that same, the strategy in terms of not putting all the eggs in one basket. So they may have their rental properties, they may have private lending, they may have some of those private equities in the account. That one account can hold everything. So yeah, I will say that's a big one that we see, again, especially as folks are heading closer towards retirement.
Okay, great. All right, moving along here. Other questions? So remember in the chat there, feel free to chime in any questions that any of you might have on any of the topics that we hit as we're going through this, all right? All right, so asset protection. So how protected, so I have an IRA set up with you, whatever form it is, whether it's a Roth setup or traditional, as you mentioned. So how does that provide protection? Is it something that I really need?
Absolutely. So I'll say the self-directed IRAs, here at Specialized are no different than one you may have with a brokerage firm, right? Your cash balance is going to carry FDIC insurance. As a custodian, we do carry all of the errors and omissions and the bonding and so forth. The IRS, and the the state of New Mexico can audit us, right? So all of those general protections are in place. But when I think of asset protection, I think of my piece of property or my investment within my account. Using property as an example, I'll say that investment is titled to you, right? So it's Specialized Trust Company Custodian for benefit of your account. That means if anything, God forbid, even happened to us here at Specialized, it's your asset. It's titled to you personally. Furthermore, when you think about real estate as an example, let's say, God forbid, there's a natural disaster and that property is wiped off the face of the earth, right? We can carry insurance. Who's the beneficiary? Our account, right? There's still value in land. So, I'll say when we think of the properties in the accounts, we have, again, those additional protections that maybe we don't have in the market. I'll say the same thing with notes. I can secure my notes, same as a bank would, so that if my borrower doesn't repay, I can take all of those same steps as a bank would in terms of starting foreclosure proceedings, so that's why I say a lot of times clients prefer, again, the tangibility of the self-directed IRAs and being able to hold more of those tangible assets, than something that's, on the market where they really don't have a lot of control. I'll say they're kind of along for the ride.
Yeah. Okay. So a question I get is, can I have multiple IRAs, SD IRAs, or is it like good? I got one. I always hear about this cap. You know, you got a yearly cap on what I can pay into it and stuff. Is that set to me and I have that cap, or can I have multiple IRAs?
Great question. So you can have as many IRAs as you like, right? So you can have one with your bank, one with a brokerage company, and one with specialized trust. And you're exactly right, Skye. I have one contribution limit to divvy up between those 3 accounts however I choose to. So I can put it all to my account at specialized. I can divide it equally among the 3, right? But that's where I have my cap. So same thing, right? When we would look to create an account, you know, I could access existing retirement funds that I have, right? So like existing IRA, I can access prior employer 401k, or I can make new contributions. You know, so there's 3 ways that we can look at creating those accounts. And even from that standpoint, you know, I can move all of an account, I can move a portion of an account. You know, I'll say with the self-directed accounts, I think of it as the vehicle and you're in the driver's seat. You know, we're here to act based on the instructions that you provide to us, you know, but we're really not providing tax advice, legal advice. We're not recommending, endorsing investments. I mean, we're really here to act at our client's direction.
Okay. And is there a max that I can initially start off an IRA?
Yeah, so with like a traditional or a Roth IRA, for example, I'll say it depends on age, right? If we're under the age of 50, I can put $5,000 in, or excuse me, I'm thinking of prior limit. So if I'm under the age of 50, it's $6,000 a year I can put in, and then ages 50 plus, I can put $7,000 in per year. I'll say right now we're kind of in a magical time because I can double dip between tax years. So I can still make my 2020 contribution up till tax day if I have it. And then I can make my 2021 contribution right now as well. I can kind of double dip between 20 and 21 up until April 15th. So I know that's a common strategy, especially among my married folks. Now they can put some in a husband's account, a wife's account, they can partner funds to do a deal. I mean, you can really start to get creative there with some of the structuring.
Wow. Okay.
That's probably way more than what you needed. I'm sorry.
A lot to know. No, that's totally fine. There's so much to know about it. That's why I turn anytime anyone starts asking IRA questions and stuff, and I know enough, you hear this term, I know enough to be dangerous. But I tend to want to just send them to you because one thing I've discovered is that there's so many individual circumstances that completely changes the entire outlook and how things progress. And I know you do fantastic at isolating those from the case of, say, like the taxes. So let's dive into that. You know, I always get the questions, you know, how does this SDIRA benefit me tax-wise? So what are some of those benefits in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll say, you know, number one, right, we're able to move funds from an existing account, you know, just kind of isolating that piece of it, into an account and avoid taxes, right? So if there's existing IRA funds or retirement funds that your clients want to access, there's ways we can move those over and not trigger a tax or penalty. So I would say that's one way, right? I don't have to take a distribution to be able to buy real estate, right, and incur taxes that way. Secondly, you know, once that account is created and we make our first investment, our profits come back into our account tax advantaged, right? I don't pay capital gains, you know, that's not reported as income to me. Is going into the account and I can continue to reinvest it and grow it without paying taxes, okay? I say tax advantages for your folks that have Roth IRAs are endless, right? Because Roth IRAs are really the only way that I can cut out taxes legally forever and not end up in an orange jumpsuit, right? Because I can put my profit back in, I don't pay taxes. When I get to retirement, assuming I've met my 5 years and I'm at retirement age, I can take everything out without taxes, right? So the only way I know to do that legally. I know you make mention of UBIT, I mean, but there's ways that I can help clients, especially your self-employed clients, avoid that through a 401k plan. So that's, again, when you talk about it really being down to the individual circumstances, you know, that's where we really want to have those one-on-one conversations and make sure that we're putting together a plan strategy that's going to help them to accomplish their goals and really mitigate, you know, any taxes that they might be looking at. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what if I have a portfolio that is generating more than my yearly contribution? Is that an issue? Is that not an issue? Is that something to be worried about?
No, so I would say that's fantastic. At that point, your earnings in the account do not impact your contribution limits. So you can have triple digit, profit in the account and still make your contribution. Yeah, the two are independent of one another.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
That is a good question. Yeah, absolutely. I get that question. I have portfolios that are generating, 10, 15, 20K plus a month. And, that is concerned. Does that mean I can't contribute any more into it because you guys are doing so good on the portfolios? I'm like, well, that's a very good question. So, okay.
Yep. Nope.
Good. We got a question here. Let's see. All right. So, question from Karen. So, Danielle, so you mentioned the window. Thank you, Karen. That's a great question. What is that window begin and when does that window close?
The window for the double contributions between tax years 2020, 2021 closes on April 15th. Because on April 15th, that's my last day to accept a contribution for tax year 2020. So I can still make 2021 contributions past that date, but my date to backdate it for last year expires.
April 15th, Karen.
Yep.
Okay, great question.
That's
okay.
Magic day.
Yeah, magic date. And it's not like taxes. There's no extension to October on that one, right?
No, not on a traditional or Roth IRA. Yeah, that's black and white April 15th. I'll say unless they do something like last year, right? Because then they did give us until July. But yeah, I'll say as it stands today, it's April 15th, last day, final answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that last year when that was announced. It was changing to July. So that's, you always got to keep your ears to the ground, so to speak, on those when executive orders or whatever happens, because that can change it. But generally, April 15th. Okay, let's move along here.
Yep.
The tax advantages. It kind of rolls right into the question I have. What is the obviously the self-directed and the intergenerational planning, the legacy planning that I have. I'd like you to cover, what is the benefit of maybe a Roth and a traditional? What does that look like in each case, and me passing that on? Say like I have an SDIRA, I'm a single guy, but I'm leaving it to Children's Hospital. I mean, what's the tax implications of that?
Okay, so you bring up a few things. So
I have a couple people.
Now we're talking
exactly.
Like
it's a big subject, but I have some people that are leaving it. They don't have kids. I have a couple people that are leaving it to entities.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and you can certainly do that. I mean, when we fill out the application, there's the second page is called our beneficiary page, and this is where we can designate primary or secondary beneficiaries, really in any percentage. So you can certainly leave that to a charity. You can leave that to an individual. I had one lady at some point that had asked about a pet. So maybe you could really list whomever there, and trust, for example, as well. With traditional IRA, the beneficiary is going to inherit it with the same tax implications that you do, meaning that when they take distribution, it's going to be subject to tax, right? The tax is always going to be collected at some point. With a traditional, we've deferred it to the point of distribution. The Roth is the polar opposite, right? I pay my tax on the front side so that I can withdraw it and get those tax benefits. Everything comes out tax-free, as we talked about. That would also hold true for your beneficiary. I know there were some changes with that Secure Act that passed earlier in 2020. So beneficiaries have, up to 10 years to withdraw funds before that account would have to be depleted. I'll say with the exception of a spouse. A spouse is the only one that can put that account into their own name and really maintain it the same as you have.
Okay, great. So on the Roth, is that a more common form for people on legacy planning? Because they obviously are paying that tax up front and it builds tax-free and they pass it on tax-free. Is that kind of the more common one?
It is. When I see folks that are really looking at passing that wealth to younger generations, it really is. And I'll even see where they skip a generation. So they may leave it to a grandchild, versus their child, because now they are able to utilize those funds as well. So yeah, the Roth is fantastic for that. And there's ways, again, even if you have pre-tax money, that we can help you start building that Roth IRA, you know, working in conjunction with your tax advisor. So yeah, there's a lot of creative things that can be done based, again, on what that client's goal is, you know, not only today, but long-term as well.
Fantastic. And does that, given our relationship you have with Equity and Help and our clients setting up real estate portfolios, is there anything different regarding what investment vehicle they choose, or it doesn't really matter?
No, I mean, because that traditional or that Roth IRA, I mean, it can hold the Equity and Help investment, or, you know, really anything that that client desires. I'll say the difference there is obviously going to be risk, you know, how risky they want to get with the account. Obviously, even on a self-directed account, there's varying levels. I'll pick on notes, for example, right? I can have my secured note, I can have an unsecured note, right? So, I mean, different levels of risk there. But again, when we think of legacy planning, I mean, I see it with Roth accounts. I've even seen, here's another example for your listeners, where let's say I have children, right? Myself, I have 3. Let's say that my 2 daughters, as they grow older, just fight like cats and dogs. They really just don't get along. I myself can set up 3 separate accounts. I can put different investments in each account, and I can list each of my children as the beneficiary to their own account. Now I eliminate all the squabbling upon my passing of who gets what and who's getting what, and are we selling this, and you know what happens. You know, so there's different ways, like I say, that clients will set that up just based on their own unique, you know, family dynamics and so forth.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I bet. I know some houses that definitely need to be split up for sure. So
I mean, I've seen others where, I'll give you another example too, I'm sorry, where clients have helped parents set up these strategies. So they may help mom and dad move funds over, look outside the market, put something like this in place, you know, with the real estate or the notes or so forth. Mom and dad can then draw on that income, right? So they're helping mom and dad with their expenses today. And then with mom and dad passing, they inherit the account and then the income stream that has been built as well. So yeah, I'll say when you talk about generational, there's a lot of ways kind of up and down that can go.
Interesting, even backwards, so to speak.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So got a question here from Karen again. Can the account be held by a trust or only use the trust as the beneficiary?
Good question. So the account will always be in the name of the individual because it's tied to a social security number. So the account will always be in the name of an individual. A trust can be listed as the beneficiary.
Okay. Perfect. Does that answer that question, Karen?
Good question.
And next question, and on that, also, does the payout still apply?
The payout.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean on that one,
Can
Karen.
we clarify?
Yeah, so the trust could be named as the beneficiary for sure, but it can't be named as the account holder. Okay, I think we answered our questions on that. Okay, let's move along here.
I'll say too, I mean, I'll add as well for you just on the trust. You know, it's also possible to invest in a trust. So I've had folks that have bought property through a land trust, for example, as well. Another spin.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I think we answered her question there. Yes, you still have to withdraw in a time frame. I think she's.
Oh, so I think Karen might be asking about required minimum distributions that apply in a traditional IRA. Those do not apply in a Roth. So with a Roth IRA, because I paid my tax on the front side when I opened the account, once I reach 59 and a half, there's no benefit to the government to tell me I have to take money out. They don't get any tax. There's no benefit to them. So with the Roth IRAs, I'm not held to that distribution requirement. I mean, I can choose to, I can choose not to. Absolutely.
Okay. All right, great. All right. Additional questions, chime in here to ask myself or Danielle before we start gonna work towards ending here. Just a moment. All right. So what are some things that people need to know, Danielle, regarding what are the key questions or things, facts that people would need to know or consider?
Gotcha. So I would say number one, right, you're always going to want to have that consultation or kind of that one-on-one discussion with any IRA provider that you're considering, again, to make sure that we're moving funds correctly between accounts. So I would say that's one, right, making sure that when we decide to move forward, that we've got the right account in place and we're avoiding taxes. I'll say two, when it comes to the investments, I'll say there are some rules, right, when it comes to what can and can't be done, and it's good to understand those. Right? I mean, I'll say, for example, we're talking about like real estate in the notes today, but I can't buy things like collectible coins, for example. I can't buy artwork to hang on the wall in my office or rugs to put under my desk. So there's a few things that I cannot purchase with a self-directed account. I'll also say there's a few individuals, right, that are hands off, myself being one. I can't take anything that I own personally and sell it to my account or gift it. I'm certainly happy to have, more one-on-one conversations there regarding, any investments that your listeners might be considering. But I'll say generally, as you're looking to buy properties from a third party, lend to a third party, those are generally all permissible, activities. So I'll say that would be one. I mean, in terms of getting started, it's really simple. I call it my 3D process. Decide to take action, decide to open that account, deposit funds, whether that's that new contribution that we talked about, or whether that's a transfer or rollover from an existing account, and direct, decide where those funds are being invested. I mean, that's, again, it's a simple process. It's a form that's filled out. I know, Skye, you've seen our direction to invest form. It's literally as simple as your account information. What are you investing in? How much do you need and where do you want it set? We really try to take all the confusion out of it and make it simple for individuals to get started and to understand. Likewise, Skye, I'm always here. Always happy to help. Once an account's open, the clients do also have access to our service team, who's just phenomenal in terms of answering those, what is my balance? How do I get a statement? Where is my investment in processing? Has my wire been set? They're really there to help because I'm on calls like this. We certainly don't want to hold anything back for my availability. So I'll say we really work together as a team here and make sure the clients have what they need, to make the deal happen.
Fantastic.
Yes.
I have to give you kudos, you and the team. Absolutely. It's my clients love, I've had them come from other IRA company custodians, and they just talk very highly of Specialized Trust, and the transition between you and me and you working together and how we get that account set up and the fund transferred in. At this point, we are a well-oiled machine, right?
Absolutely. Well, and that's where I'll say the value comes in too, because sometimes I've had clients that have been with other custodians and they weren't able to get the deal done. I mean, it's data in processing, they weren't kept up to date, no one told them something was missing, and they missed their deadline, and now they're shopping for another investment opportunity. I mean, I'll say that's one of the biggest reasons, as you point out, that clients will transfer to us, from another provider. It's really just, I'll say, being able to interact with the same group of individuals and not just being a number, to being able to get the deal done and having just that open communication. I would say that's one of the most important things as you're self-directing.
Yeah, and that's one reason I absolutely love you all, because like ourselves, still being a national provider, very large, sucking up any properties we can get our hands on. A national large provider, yet still that one-on-one experience, that mom and pop experience, so to speak, is absolutely. I love that. The clients love it. So for those of you, the admin here will put in the chat window how to contact Danielle. All of you are in contact with me already. The reason I wanted to do this was because I get a lot of questions regarding IRAs and self-directed IRAs specifically. So hopefully this was really educational, and you got to see Danielle, you got to hear some information. But in that chat window, you will see a link with some contact information for Danielle to reach out to her. And feel free to do so. Reach out to myself. Many of you have my mobile. Text me if you have any questions, and I'll continue to work with you to move forward. Really enjoyed the conversation today, Danielle.
Yes, I was saying I forgot. I also was going to send all of your listeners that Field Guide to Financial Freedom, my ebook that talks about the self-directed IRAs and what can be done, what can't be done, the types of accounts, really providing that foundation as they may look to get started. So anyone that's interested can certainly send me a quick email, hop on my calendar. I know that link was in the chat box there. We'll make sure they get a copy.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. I'm sure they're going to love it.
Absolutely. Happy to.
Yeah. All right. So happy New Year 2021 to everyone listening, to Danielle, you and the Specialized Trust team as well. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
To all the listeners, thank you for chiming in. I look forward to next week. Keep your eyes on these emails for the topic next week. We'll get that out to you. And you have a fantastic week and weekend, and we'll stay in touch. Thank you, Danielle.
Awesome. Thank you, Skye. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, bye.
All righty. Bye-bye.